Hello and welcome to the Morning Brief live right here on Channels Television. We're broadcasting from our global headquarters in Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzongo. The natural question I want to ask you is, how was your weekend? Well, it's a brand new week. We're hoping for the very, very best. And today on the show, we'll make sure that you have a fantastic time being with us for the next 2 hours. Kayode?
Well, ladies first.
Oh, ladies first. I just wanted to go like this.
It's fine.
Like,
it's fine.
Like this.
But guys, I didn't get the memo.
What memo?
What happened?
Okay, well, hopefully.
The colors.
You didn't check.
No. You didn't check.
My mail,
you didn't check your mail.
The other inbox.
Maybe you did not check your spam.
My spam. Okay, so that's a conspiracy. But it's fine. It's fine. You asked how our weekend was. I'd like you to tell you how our weekend went.
I'm sure something really good happened to Bukola. I didn't ask that. I was asking the audience.
Somebody here was talking to us about gratitude. Okay. It's healthy, it produces results, and voila.
Boom.
Voila. we reaped a harvest over the weekend. And by the way, he's dressed like a cleric this morning.
Yeah.
So you better start listening to what Kayode says.
I'm getting offerings afterwards.
Yeah.
Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief. It's your day starter right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
Well, another Monday morning is upon us, January the 22nd. Yes, it's still over a week to the end of January, but not to worry. We're here to help you go through not just your day, the month, and even the days to come. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
So guys, a lot has happened, and sometimes it's difficult for people to keep track of what's happening in the world. Our responsibility as journalists, as media practitioners or professionals, is to ensure that we put everything in perspective to condense all of this news. So if you check on X, across social media, things were trending and across board. But one of the exciting news is the fact that those girls were rescued, or they are now reunited with their families, which for me is a very positive story coming from the FCT. So I don't know what stood out for you guys. I know some of these things are in the top stories, but for me, it's very gratifying I think I was watching the father. Talking about this, all of your children all of a sudden are not with you, then finally they are back to you. I don't think he's going to recover from that in a very short while. But the most exciting part is the fact that those kids, those children, those girls are back with their families. We're going to take that on the top stories today, as well as other conversations we have. But I don't know what stood out for you at the weekend besides your excitement, personal excitement, on the news. There's
a backstory to that. Maybe we'll share that behind the scenes. So that's what we're talking about. But for me, and I think it stood out for a lot of people, was that the students who protested in Plateau State over the LGBTQ proposal and the rest. And for a lot of people, it was first shocking. And of course, there's that agreement that was meant to be signed between the EU and the African Caribbean countries. And it was said conspicuously that Nigeria was, of course, not a part of that. It was even dragging. One of the big nations that was meant to be in that group did not attend, and of course did not append its signature to that particular, what we would call a treaty or an agreement or what have you. So that got a lot of people worried. And the students came out to protest. Now, we've seen adults protesting. We've seen civil societies protest from time to time on various issues. But I don't think I've seen students protest, particularly for issues like this. You can find that video on our platform on X and the rest. But that stood out for me, and questions have been raised regarding that. And I wonder what you think about it. Let us know, #CTV Morning, because that was what stood out for me over the weekend, guy, that you see from the
pictures.
Yeah, well, for me, Kadi, it's insecurity in Abuja in the FCT, because insecurity in one place is insecurity everywhere, and we should all be concerned. It was a Pyrrhic victory for the Al-Qadria family, with the return of the 5 girls. Thank God the 5 girls were returned, but they had lost a sister. And that conversation, with the senator in the FCT, with our political editor, Sean Kimbaloyi, also is instructive on many fronts. There were a lot of issues raised. One, the lack of synergy between the elected representatives at the National Assembly and the Minister of the FCT. Well, that's an issue that they can resolve amongst themselves. But the minister said quite a number of other things, that authorities should be looking into. The borders in the FCT, which is, where these bandits may be getting access, to come perpetrate their heinous activities, crimes in the FCT. Well, she said she's also been talking to security agents, and they say that they're fully funded. Really? they are funded. If they're funded, why do we have so many challenges about insecurity in the FCT? I wonder if they are fully funded in all other states that are challenged by insecurity. She also talked about a quarter of security in the FCT guarding VIPs, and we had that conversation here on the program as well. It's an ongoing debate, and then the debate about it was the troops that were able to rescue the kidnapped victims and handed them over to the police. So when she said security agents said they are fully funded, is it the army or is it the police? Those are issues that should be looked into. And then the IDP camps in the FCT, they need to be well guarded, well secure, and there needs to be, infrastructure, the basic facilities that the IDPs need. They should be available such that, you don't create room for radicalism for those young ones. If there's no continuing education in the IDP camps, then the young ones there may just be ready recruits for bandits. So those issues, that conversation was very instructive, and you can catch it again on our YouTube channel. That's what stood out for me, insecurity. There's a lot
to talk about. That's our responsibility, whether they are soft, hard, difficult, challenging, exciting. Our responsibility is to bring it to the fore and help people to make sense of the situation. That's exactly what we do on the show. But hey, that is not all we'll be talking about today. Let's tell you what to expect on the show today, because it's a big lineup for you. And if I were you, I'm not going to go anywhere. Maybe if I'm in my office. Now, if there's any investigation rather that Nigerians are looking forward to its outcome, is that of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation over the allegations of fraud running into tens of billions of naira. And there are many questions to ask. What has been discovered so far? Who is culpable? Is Dr. Betta Edu, the minister that has now been suspended, is she guilty or is she not guilty? And what happens next? And some persons are asking the president to give her a second chance. Now, two gentlemen will join us right here in the studio and across board to make sense of this particular situation.
And in addition to that, what does it take to curate every moment of a Nigerian president by just a click of a button on land, air, and sea? Well, what a privilege if you ask me. We speak to the man whose expertise immortalized 8 years of the Buhari administration. Bayo Omoboriowo is our guest today on the Morning Brief. You don't want to miss that.
Let's just allow you to see some of the moments that he had with the president, former President Muhammadu Buhari. That is just for a second. So there you go. Right there on that vehicle. That's like a action scene from a movie right there. Some of the images which he curated for the president. Some of them never before seen, I imagine, but essentially beautiful work, I must say. But hey, there's more we have for you on the show this morning. Now, for years, his sound evoked unparalleled energy on radio and at parties, attesting to his street credibility. Truth is, you can't sit still when Terry G is on the mic. But then recently he announced he's saying goodbye to music. I mean, the Ginger Master also comes live on the Morning Brief today to provide perspective on why he made that announcement. Is that something we really should go by? Is there more to that story? We're bringing Ginger himself.
Yeah, the Ginger Master. Let's see.
Gingers.
Yes, okay, because when you look at the guys who are the guys right now, some of them you need to throw back to know that at different era, different people represented different level of what we call street credibility. In this generation, Terry G was the guy who evoked all of that energy with his bell and with his dancing and excitement. So, hey, we're going to look out for that conversation. Why is Terry G saying goodbye to music? We'll find out today on the show. As well as you share your thoughts with us on, if you can, as much as possible. This show is all about you. So we'd appreciate if you share your thoughts with us. Just go to X and post with the hashtag CTV Morning Brief. CTV Morning Brief. Allow your perspective to come through, and we'll be right here on our virtual screen across board to ensure that everything you say, everything you do, everything you post, as much as is good for television, will be aired right here on the Morning Brief. So, guys, don't forget as well that we also have our WhatsApp line. You can send your thoughts as well on WhatsApp. If you have videos that are newsworthy, if you have videos that are newsworthy, please send it across to us. We'll check it out and make sure that if it's something that the authorities or everyone needs to know about, we'll ensure that they know about it today on the show. The show is about you. So as we roll through the morning brief, you're giving us your own brief, we're giving you our own brief, and everybody, we're enjoying the briefs together. That's what the show is really all about. Quick success, and they call it keep it short and simple. Kiss. All right, guys, so that's exactly what the outlook is like today. But hey, we're going to take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll bring you our top stories. Join us again. Now, top on the brief this morning is home at last for 5 sisters who were kidnapped almost 3 weeks ago in the Zuma 1 area, Kawu, in Omoboriowo area council of Abuja on January the 2nd. Now, operatives of the Nigerian police force in synergy with the troops of the army will launch a search party and manhunt secured their release late Saturday night, and they've now been reunited with their families, although with mixed emotions, as one of the sisters, 21-year-old Bayo Al-Kadir, was killed when a ransom deadline elapsed. The sisters were rescued in Kajuru Forest in neighboring Kaduna State after armed men invaded their home just 25 kilometers from Abuja city center earlier in the year. Now, another kidnapped victim, Mr. Suleiman Sabo, was also rescued along Sauka Airport Road, that's in Abuja, just yesterday, Sunday. Operatives have also recently arrested some suspect in connection with terrorizing the nation's capital. Now, more woes for mischievous elements threatening our nation's collective peace as the air component of Operation Wild Punch have killed a notorious terrorist and kidnapped kingpin known as Janari and some members of his gang. Janari and his accomplice, according to the Nigerian Air Force, have been responsible for several attacks and abductions within Kaduna State and along the Kaduna-Abuja highway. In a statement by the Air Force, the strikes were authorized after Janari and his gang were sighted at a location near Gata Katako in the Igabi local government area of Kaduna State while planning to launch yet another attack on vulnerable citizens. Another year, another fire outbreak in one of Lagos's most popular markets along Broad Street on Lagos Island. The fire is said to have originated on the first floor of a 10-story facility and reached the 4th floor of a warehouse in the Mandela's building. Although the cause of the inferno, which is feared to have destroyed goods worth millions of naira, is yet to be known. Emergency workers, including the Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service, were on ground to bring the situation under control, and now investigations have commenced. Now he's worried now this has become some form of a recurrent incident. Well, let's see what comes out of this investigation. That's not all that is happening in Lagos, as styrofoam and single-use plastic sellers and distributors have been rattled by a new policy from the state government. The government says no more distribution of styrofoam and other single-use plastics in the state, and that commences with immediate effect. The Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tukumba Wahab, in a statement explains that the decision was reached following the menace which the product, especially the non-biodegradable styrofoam, was causing on the environment along the drainages. The year of implementation. Now, this is another story altogether, and you need to pay attention to this. The year of implementation is how the federal government has christened 2024. They maintain that government is committed to seeing the execution of all its investment in the health sector over the years. That assurance is coming from the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Pate, in an exclusive interview with Channels Television.
You have several years of unmet expectations, so people become cynical. Psychologically, when you say, I'm going to do ABC, people don't believe it because they've been conditioned, they've seen it, they've had it. That's why we're talking less and we're going to do more, and we're doing more. The reality of change will be what changes the minds of Nigerians. Okay, something is different here. In the next 3 to 6 months, you will see groundbreaking. I'm not saying just plans again, but groundbreaking of major infrastructural investments to expand diagnostic capabilities all over this country, at least 8 of them, and 2 major oncology centers. This has been discussed for many years, but not executed. But this year, we are saying that we will execute it because it's a year of doing. And in many of our teaching hospitals, we'll upgrade the physical infrastructure so that they look better. I went to some of the teaching hospitals that have been tens of years, and you look at the physical infrastructure, you will almost cry when you look at the quality of the physical infrastructure. Not clean, paints have deteriorated. Go to the National Hospital here in Abuja, 25-year-old hospital, meant to be a quaternary hospital. I was there. You see dilapidated, obsolete equipment since it was put 25 years ago. It's here in Abuja, where all of us live, where the physical infrastructure is deteriorated if you've been there. Now, that is going to change. So that Nigeria can go into a health facility and see, look, this is looking better. So it's channeling the resources to the front ends. And by the end of the year, let's then reassess what has been done.
There's a lot more he said. For that interview, catch Newsnight tonight at 9 p.m. right here on Channels Television. Moving on now. A plot against northern interests is how the Arewa Consultative Forum perceives the planned relocation of the headquarters of the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, FAN, and some departments of the Central Bank of Nigeria from Abuja to Lagos. The forum says the CBN's decision, rather than being a normal administrative action to fix some logistics problem, is a disturbing pattern taken by certain federal agencies. Those are their words, against the interest of the North, and they're asking the federal government as well as the National Assembly to quickly intervene. FAN had explained that the decision is meant to curb the waste of public resources and utilize abandoned Lagos building, among others, while the Central Bank says the decongestion action plan will optimize its operational environment. Let's talk some business now. The largest container vessel to sail on Nigerian territorial waters has berthed at the Lekki Deep Sea Port. The vessel, named Max Edugate, measures about 367 meters in length. In a statement by the Managing Director of the Nigerian Ports Authority, Mr. Mohammed Bello Koko, the vessel has a breadth of 48.2 meters and carries a gross registered tonnage of over 140,000 metric tons. The management of the deep sea port had, in June 2023, announced the arrival of Rimbal, the first transshipment vessel to call at the container terminal of the deep sea port. Well, you can see Lagos is getting ready for big things. But let's get out of Lagos and get to outside our shores. The death toll in the Gaza Strip has now surpassed 25,000, according to the Ministry of Health in the territory. The spokesperson of the ministry says on Sunday, 178 people were killed in the previous 24 hours, with the death toll in more than 3 months of Israel's war on Hamas reaching 25,105 persons. The Israeli bombardment began after Hamas surprise attack on northern or southern Israel on October 7, killing at least 1,139 people, and around 250 people were held hostage or taken hostage by the Palestinian armed group known as Hamas. Let's get to the exciting world of sport. The round of 16 may arguably be inside for the Super Eagles of Nigeria, but that will not create room for lackluster in their game against Guinea-Bissau in less than 12 hours from now. That's the assurance coming from the coach. Jose Posero has released Nigeria to come face-to-face with the only team to have beaten the Super Eagles in a competitive match since he took over 20 months ago. Today's crucial game, which will be the three-time African champions' 100th match at the Africa Cup of Nations since the group phase encounter against Egypt in Ghana in 1963, will see the Super Eagles finish top of the Group A with a win. That's with a win, as long as Equatorial Guinea, also on 4 points, do not humiliate host nation Cote d'Ivoire. But that is not all that is coming from Abidjan. Call it the needed optimism, and you won't be wrong. Mohamed Salah is convinced he will win the Africa Cup of Nations with Egypt sooner or later, but admits his country will need to improve if they are to do so at this year's edition. The Pharaohs need to win their decisive final group game against Cape Verde on Monday, which is today, to be sure of qualifying for the last 16, although without injured Salah for the game in Abidjan.
I think everybody knows what does it mean to any player to win Africa Cup. We're always proud to wear that T-shirt. And yeah, we were unlucky last one, and the one in Gabon also were a little bit unlucky. I think the players are very motivated to win the tournament. We all want to win it. It's going to be such a great feeling. In the end of the day, we're not doing great at the moment, but we are a fantastic team. We have a great coach, so we just need to stay focused and have a good vision and be positive. And I believe, like, with the hard work, everything would be possible. So we just need to win one game to qualify, and we go from there.
Well, all eyes on Abidjan today as Nigeria files it against Guinea-Bissau. Of course, we're going to be looking out for that match. Well, quite a sorry one for Salah, but let's see how Egypt plays out this one. But hey, those are your top stories and your outlook for the day. I'm being joined right now by Coyote. Well, I don't know which of the stories stood out for you. A lot of people have been talking.
You know what? I think which one stands out for me? Naturally, it has to be the security situation in Abuja, which we have talked about, and the Lagos Island fire as well. And I think there's been a lot of talk about that. So let's just maybe walk through some of the posts that you have put up about that fire and other trending issues this morning. Let's hear from you right now. And particularly for that Lagos Island fire, you see Prudence Tachio asking that what is really happening in that island, talking about Lagos Island. Fire outbreak again. It is too early. This particular post from Prudence Tachio says, and I know there have been questions, but it's been said that it's not the same section. So at least you can rule that out. But clearly there needs to be a deeper conversation about perhaps safety and the rest. But it was good to see the emergency responders responding and arriving to battle that fire from the front and the back. And there's been the joke that they battled it from front, right, and center. Sadly, of course, you saw the building destroyed, and of course, goods naturally will be destroyed. So the question will be the fate of those who own businesses and portions in that building. But that's what a lot of you are saying right there on X. But there's more.
Yeah, Oluwatobi is saying every year there shall be a fire outbreak in this market environs on the island. Now, wow, well, for those of you who don't understand Pidgin, he's just worried that is this like a ritual, some form of something must happen every year, and it happens in the early part of the year, January or so. So that's why I'm sure the investigations will reveal. So that's the post on X coming from Mr. Oluwatobi, raising concerns and suspicion over this very recurrent incident.
And Prince Ade Chameleon is raising issues about the general matter, saying, I don't know why it's been a vicious cycle for Nigeria and Nigerians since the beginning of this year. Is asking, who did we offend? When you look at it in a broader context, you realize that there are challenges literally everywhere. We could talk about what's happening in Gaza, sadly. We can talk about Ukraine-Russia war, but I think we should also focus on picking out the lessons. So the fire, can we talk about how to be more careful during Harmattan? We know that fires are more prone to happen during Harmattan, but I know that naturally these questions will be asked. There's security challenges in Nigeria, now the fire, what's going on? But hey, that's what you said.
Well, this person, Halozi, is saying, Omo, this early 2024, a lot don't stop. Okay, Kaida has been talking about January not ending as quickly as it should, and this is quite early for this to happen. Just to add to what you said, that market, if you're familiar with it, of course, you know that the cluster, they are so close together. That could also be one of the factors. But this has to be checked. Because it's not just fire we're talking about here, we're also talking about people's investment. Livelihoods. So what millions of naira. So at the end of this investigation, we'll get to know exactly what was destroyed, what was the worth of the value of the things that were destroyed. But we can't continue to lose their investment in situations that can be avoided.
Totally.
Inflation numbers are not smiling. 29% is not a joke. This is not the time to record losses at all. Kayode, what next?
So, take a look at this one. We're switching gears now, shifting attention to something you've also been talking about, and that's the suspended minister, Betta Edu. There have been lots of calls from people saying she should be reinstated, and others think, nah, she should resign. But let's see what you're saying. Fisayo Shoyombo on Twitter, investigative journalist Fisayo Shoyombo of FIJ says this: some X accounts may have started organizing a coordinated social media campaign. And there you see, to burnish the image of Betta Edu, the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, and get her back in government. But that's not all that you are saying on this particular matter. Jeff?
Yes, this is coming from Michael Alao. He says, my opinion, I think she must return as Minister of Humanitarian Affairs. I think it's not a matter of embezzlement. It is her enthusiasm that got her into troubled waters. If you don't want to destroy her political career, she's got to return. I guess that's what she's saying.
Interesting. Take a look at this next one from Wilfred Ina, saying Betta is coming back into the FEC, or coming back to the FEC, that's the Federal Executive Council. She doesn't need any media handles to launder her image. Investigation is ongoing, and from all indication, she's clean. Okay, I thought the investigation was still on, but of course, you're entitled to your opinion. Goes on to say, if you have any such proof beyond what we know already, send it to the EFCC rather. No point for the media trial. So you see all of the different angles to this conversation right there on X.
All right, so where do we switch gears to now? I think we should head straight to the styrofoam post.
Or before that.
Oh, before that, okay.
You know what, let's go there. Let's go to the styrofoam.
Okay. Well, when I was reading the story, I said, oh boy, this is, people have made investments and policies just erupted. I wouldn't say from nowhere, because I don't know what the conversation, the backstory
the build up to this moment,
whether they were warned, that they've been talked to. I don't know what it was that happened to them, but I can imagine being a styrofoam distributor in Nigeria, and my base is Lagos, and I get this information. But let's hear what you're saying. It's not what we're saying. Our opinion doesn't count here. So let's hear from you, Mose Bolaton, right?
Moshe Bolaton.
Moshe Bolaton, sorry. As much as we understand the environmental impact, bans must be phased. Must be phased. You can give a 6-month time frame as it will affect production lines. The ministry should also begin to work towards to clean up such non-biodegradable materials and provide proper disposal bins for them. That's your proposal coming from the gentleman that Kayode talked about.
Yeah, and to take a look at Prince Dewa on this one. With immediate effect, puts that in quote, because that's what the commissioner's statement said, immediate effect. So
yes.
The question is, immediate effect? In a democracy, decisions are not made without consideration. He says there are genuine business owners that have this in stock, and there are manufacturers that produce this as a business. Shouldn't this be phased out? That's the question. But Jeff, I was reading that statement, and a lot of things occurred to me. Now, we know that styrofoam and other one-use...
Single-use plastic.
Single-use, thank you very much.
Single-use plastics
have been banned. We know styrofoam, a lot of people know what styrofoam looks like, but what are the other plastics that are banned?
Okay, maybe our producer will get us what the styrofoam is, for those who are there.
Exactly, maybe we can put that up for
people. We can put out the picture. At some point on the show, we'll get to show you what it is.
Absolutely. So there are questions about, which other plastics are affected? Because single-use plastics, they're wide range.
They are wide range,
straws, cotton buds, by the way. The plastic used for cotton. That's single use. You can't use it twice.
Yes.
So is that banned as well? Aside straws, what about the cups?
Yes.
Those party cups, those red cups and the other cups. Are they banned? Those trays, those plastic trays that are used for asun and small trays.
You've been there.
Yes,
You've been there, done there.
I've been there. Are they banned as well? So there are questions as to how wide-ranging, how far-reaching is this? I know that the commissioner referenced NESREA and that national, the environmental policy that was signed 2009, but it doesn't specifically talk about a ban
what
on
categories
plastics. It doesn't even say that specifically. So what exactly is going on? We're going to be asking those questions, but just to put it out there that there are more questions to be answered by that statement.
I think this is coming from Sheon, who says, is this legal? Is this practical to do it with immediate effect? The next question is, if you're banning these things, what are the alternatives? What are you providing as alternatives? That's
Sheon's tweet.
That's Sheon's tweet there. Is this legal? Is this practical? So what are the alternatives that the government is providing? So Kaida has expanded the conversation, elevated it. So let's be clear on exactly what categories of single-use plastics you're talking about besides styrofoam. So we'll be sure whether...
that's a styrofoam.
That's a styrofoam.
You remember that? This plastic, you use it a lot, most likely.
Party jollof, when you go to takeaways and all of that.
Food joint.
So let's be clear whether our swing is in danger as well. Just let's be sure.
You can get other containers. You can get a cooler, things that you can always use time and again.
Or should we now be taking our plates?
Because when you think about the environmental impact, which is the baby that should not be thrown away with the bathwater. I mean, you've seen the drainages in Lagos. How what you find there, 100%, they are plastics, and you wonder, don't people have waste bins to throw this in? You just see people driving on the road, just toss things out of the. Sometimes I'm tempted to want to overtake and say, park there. Go and pick what you just dumped on the road. So it's really terrible when we look at exactly. So he mentioned Kai, he mentioned Loma, but what happens to people who are found using these things? Is there like a plastic police that will arrest people?
I think that will be the responsibility of Kai at the end of the day to be able to implement all of this. But this weekend there were parties. Within the week there will be parties. The coming weekend there will be parties. And they've already bought the styrofoam. So what is the plan? Government needs to answer that question.
Big question. Let's wrap up with this banter between Eimba and 3SC Football Club of Ibadan. So there was a match over the weekend. It was played in Ibadan, the state capital. And guess what? Eimba won. There were some controversies around the goal that was disallowed, penalty call and all of that, but Eimba emerged victorious. So Shooting Stars put up a tweet to talk about the final results. Says Shooting Stars 1, Eimba 2. But Jeffrey, see how Eimba handled responded to the tweet.
We need to find out who is the... Let's read it for you. Victory tastes better with amala and ewedu. Specially made in Ibadan.
Ouch. It's not enough to have emerged victorious. Why rub it in without amala and ewedu? But it just shows you some of the banter that goes on.
The humor. That's a tweet. So Eimba responding to 3SC's loss in Ibadan.
Oh, by the way, so Shooting Stars is what it is. I keep calling it 3SC Shooting Stars. But
Shooting Stars of Ibadan. They've been there like forever. Those are the legendary, these two clubs. Well, that's it. Those are your thoughts. Keep them coming. CTV Morning Brief is how you get to us on X. Just post as well as our WhatsApp number. Share your thoughts on any of the conversations we'll be having as we continue with the rest of the show. And as well as things that are trending on X, we'll bring it right here to make sure your voices are heard. But we'll be right back after this break. Join us again. Welcome back to the Morning Brief. You just saw that video, Bring Back Better Edu. Some people advocating that she should be given a second chance. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Better Edu is the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. There were allegations of fraud in that ministry involving her and other people, including NSIPA, as well as a former minister. So it's a gamut of issues running into tens of billions of naira. Just remember, it's still an allegation. They are being investigated. But whilst that is going on, well, some people are saying, give her a chance. Maybe it was a bureaucratic naivety or whatever they describe it as. Well, that is the fulcrum of our conversation today on the program. And we're being joined right here in our Lagos studio to provide perspective to what is happening in the country as far as that issue is concerned. The video you saw, as well as the ongoing investigations. Human rights activist, public interest lawyer, legal practitioner, we will say, Mr. Inibe joins us in our Lagos studio. Inibe, thank you for coming on the program.
Good morning. Thank you. Good to be here.
And also from our Abuja studio, we have legislative and policy analyst and president Project Hope Alive Africa joining us from our Abuja studios, Mr. Chibuzo Okereke. Mr. Chibuzo, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Mr. Chibuzo, let me start with you because that is where everything is happening. That's the seat of power. So you're very close to action points at this very moment. There's a lot that has happened in that ministry. In fact, a lot of focus is on that ministry. Former minister has been investigated. The current one is being investigated. A head of a department is being investigated. So there's an avalanche of investigation going on, and these are all allegations until we find out exactly from the anti-graft agency what is going on. But I may want you to quickly react to the video you saw before we get deeper into the conversation. Now, people are saying, she didn't steal any money or she didn't do this or that. Let's give her a second chance and all of that. What do you make of the situation?
Well, thank you very much. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, if you have been accused of corruption, you immediately have the toga of leprosy, which means everybody should avoid you and stay away from you. And I have been one of the lonely voices. I have said, let us interrogate the issues critically. Under our laws, if you have been accused, you remain innocent until proven guilty. But if you even look closely on the issues surrounding the suspended minister, my focus is on what we have known publicly. First is that there is a memo that the money should be credited to the program manager, 585 million naira for disbursement to the vulnerable groups. Second is that there is an award to the tune of 3 billion for the audit of the National Social Register. And then, of course, the third one is about a memo where some officials of the agency were requesting for flight money to fly to Kogi, where we don't have, airports. And respectfully, I think that the president may have been pressured to suspend the minister without, respectfully I say so, without looking critically on all these issues. First, let's take the issue of the memo. People have been citing financial regulations of the federal government number 713 that deals with issue of account and checks, that says personal money should not be paid into government accounts, and then no government public fund should be paid into personal account. And that has been what the coordinated media effort against the minister have been focusing on. Nobody has brought attention to this provision on advances, non-personal advances, as provided in Financial Regulation number 1402, sub-I and III. Under that provision, non-personal advances is granted to officials in their official capacity. If someone is a program manager or project accountant for special programs of government, and he has the responsibility to be the accounting officer for the disbursement of that money. I didn't make that provision, and I'm sure Minister Betedu didn't make that particular provision under the financial regulation. So if our argument is that those laws has potential, element for corruption, then we can think about reviewing those regulations and not claim that if somebody receives non-financial and non-personal advances for disbursement for special program, who is under the law the accounting officer, and our focus is not whether those monies have been disbursed to the targeted people and where are the retirement evidence for the disbursement. Rather, we called for the minister to be suspended for doing something that actually the law provided for. Now, whether that law is right or not is a different issue, but the action itself, does it constitute an infraction or intention to commit fraud? Fraud is committed on both an act and intention to do so. Then,
just a moment. Let's bring in Ibe here so we can have like a brisk back and forth on this one. Let's have a rich conversation. Ibe, he says it's meant to be innocent until proven guilty. You've asked for her to even resign. So that's sort of like guilty until you're proven innocent. I know that applies in other crimes, but not here. He's talking about the provisions, non-personal advances. You know these laws. Your thoughts?
I completely disagree with what he has said. I think this is a serious matter. There are a lot of questions that the suspended minister has not answered. One of which is she the accounting officer of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, or is it the permanent secretary that is supposed to have been the accounting officer? Does the minister under the law have the power to have even approved that payment, or is it the permanent secretary that is supposed to do so? Now, what is the position of the Accountant General of the Federation on the matter? The Accountant General of the Federation has gone on public record to say that, look, suspended Minister Beta Edu had written to me seeking approval for this payment, and I declined to give it. And I even counseled her that this is not how it is done. But she clearly flouted the position of the Accountant General. She usurped the responsibility of the permanent secretary of the ministry and then caused this money to be credited into that account. Now, I have listened to the guest from the Abuja studio who is saying, advance for non-personal, whatever that he had described. The truth of the matter is that when you look at the financial regulations, right, which he has also referenced, section 7 or clause 713, it is clear that public funds cannot be paid into personal accounts. And that provision further says that once you have committed that infraction, there's a presumption of fraud. In other words, that any public officer who ensures or facilitates the payment of public funds into private accounts is deemed to have done so with fraudulent intention. So this is not a case of, just mere administrative lapse. The truth of the matter is that this matter came to public light because the agency, the social intervention agency, was, they were exposed. And then they had to, in turn, possibly also expose the minister. So we cannot excuse what has happened. But let us even look at it more thoroughly, right? Part of these monies that Beta Edu approved, they claim that 219 million of that money was to be paid to indigent persons from my home state, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Lagos, and Ogun. I'm challenging Beta Edu to mention the people that are beneficiaries, because before you even say
paid. Not paid yet, so clearly they can't.
Yes, it was to be paid. So but if you have an intention to pay and you set an amount for it, it presupposes that you have already decided the number of beneficiaries and who those beneficiaries are supposed to be. So let Nigerians see who these persons that were to be credited with these monies are. And nobody can tell me that the whole federal government of Nigeria, the whole Ministry of Finance, the Office of the Accountant General could not have directly credited the beneficiaries of this money. That we had to go through somebody, an official of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, pay the money into our account. Does the account statement of that officer, is it an official document of the federal government of Nigeria? Can Beta Edu write to the bank? That is the question I want the media to ask the gentleman. Can Beta Edu write to the bank of this official and say, please give me your account statement? The answer is no, because of principle of confidentiality. That is the reasoning of the law in saying that you cannot pay public funds into private accounts, because it is private. I cannot, the minister could not have demanded for our account statement Can the minister do that? The answer is no, because it is personal account. So what are they saying? This should never have happened. And because it has happened, there has to be consequences for it. So we cannot excuse it that, oh, she was overexcited or she was so ready to serve. I have even gone further to say that beyond the suspension, the entire ministry should be scrapped.
But Mr.
It should be scrapped.
Mr. Ifeanyi, you said earlier that she usurped the Accountant General's authority and caused the monies to be credited into the private account. Do you have evidence to that effect?
The Accountant General has said so publicly.
No, the Accountant General has said that she did not act on the instruction from the minister unless there's something new to that effect. She
wrote to the Accountant General. The Accountant General said that he replied her to say that this is not how this is done. That is what I read in the public space. In other words, the Accountant General declined to give approval or credence to the request by the minister. So if the Accountant General has this, and in fact, the Accountant General even said that payment of public funds into private accounts is illegal. He said that, she said that more.
So do we have evidence that indeed the monies had been credited to the private account?
It has not been disputed. She has admitted it. It has not, even the gentleman has admitted it.
No.
Well,
it is not in dispute that
the monies were paid into the private project account.
An official of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, right? The person they refer to as project manager or whatever. It is not disputed that the sum of 585 million was paid into that account.
It is.
That has not been contested.
That's what, and you just referenced that the Accountant General said that she
still went ahead.
No. So let me read the statement from the Office of the Accountant General, January the 6th, 2024, saying OAGF does not make payment on behalf of MDAs. And it says that the allocations are released to self-accounting MDAs in line with the budget, and such MDAs are responsible. And it goes on to say that the AGF explained that although the office received the said requests from the ministry, it did not carry out the payment. The ministry was, however, advised on the appropriate, which is what you referenced. There was a response to the ministry advice on the appropriate steps to take in making such payments in line with the established payment procedure. But it says it did not carry out such payment.
I'm saying that my understanding of the facts is that she wrote to the Accountant General, right, and say, can this be done? The Accountant General says, well, such payments can go through the agencies directly. But the question of whether, the point I'm making is that the question of whether under our law, under the public service rules, under the Nigerian financial regulations, whether public funds can be paid into private accounts. The Accountant General answered that question in the negative, that this cannot be done. So I am asking, when suspended Minister Bayo took the decision for that money to go into private account, what was in her mind? Who were supposed to be the final beneficiaries of this money? And why was this particular official, insulated? And I've asked that the guest should also address that question. Can the minister, can the Accountant General, can even the President of Nigeria request for the account statement of this official? The answer is no, because you have the bank will not honor it except with the court order. The bank cannot honor it because it is personal account. So if it is personal account, why are you using the account of an individual to pay public funds to people?
Well, Mr. Okereke will respond to that. And while you're doing that also, in addition to that, those who have argued that she will actually survive this have said that Treasury single account guidelines, I don't know if it's the same that you were quoting, actually allow for the payment of monies for ministry projects to be paid into private accounts. We'll get to you again, Mr. Enibe, to provide the legal perspective. But the question is, when guidelines run afoul of supreme laws, which takes precedence? Go ahead, Mr. Okereke.
Thank you very much. I've listened to my colleague with rapt attention. I think he's arguing on effects and not on the cause. There is no effect without a cause. And with the leave of our anchors, I would like to read the provision on Financial Regulations number 1402, sub I. It said, advances for non-personal are those advances granted to an officer in his official capacity Then the III said, in the disbursement of funds for non-personal advance for project or special programs where these humanitarian activities fall under, he said the leader of the project / special program shall be the accounting officer and shall approve all payment, while an accountant of an appropriate grade shall be attached to each project or special program and shall have the responsibility for the disbursement as well as retirement of those funds. This is the provision of the law. When you talk about clause 713, you are dealing with the pre-TSA era, when agencies or government can open accounts in commercial banks. Today, agencies of government have become self-accounting bodies. So Accountant General Office simply credits them and then they manage their affairs according to the budgetary provision. So the question, we are not arguing whether the list, the people have been credited or what have you. We are dealing with the specific action as to whether under our laws can you credit an officer in his official capacity to disburse monies for government? And the answer is yes. In the last administration, we even saw our vice president, former vice president, in the market distributing cash to individuals under the market money or what have you. So the issue is whether our laws provide. Now, when somebody, I'm coming, please. No, I need to have time to explain myself. My colleague had, quite a number of.
We don't have so much time, so if you can land on your thoughts, yes, go ahead.
When somebody is functioning in an official capacity, you cannot classify the person as private. My colleague, as a lawyer, he knows this quite well. If you're functioning in an official capacity and funds have been advanced to you to perform a responsibility under your official capacity, that could not become private. It is no longer private. And I tell you, if we want a situation where we can ask for accountability of that, that is entirely a different. I'm not here to argue. I'm not in the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. Neither am I the spokesperson of the minister. I am saying when these things happen, let us interrogate it critically and not take people to slaughter them even before we look at our laws. The law is clear that the accounting officer is the program manager attached with a project accountant, and they shall be responsible for disbursement. Whether they disburse by cash or by account is what I'm not able to discuss, because that is not the crux of the issue. The issue is, under our law, is it possible to credit somebody in his official capacity to do disbursement for government? And the answer is yes.
Mr. Okereke, the reason I've been trying to butt in so that you can respond, it's a bit almost confusing. The same laws you're quoting, 1014, has the same provision, 713. So first question, are these laws in conflict? Because, just hold on, Mr. Okereke, if you don't mind, please. Are these laws in conflict? Yeah. That's on one hand. It's also a bit confusing that when the minister wrote to the accountant general advised otherwise. So is there a bit of what I continuously call bureaucratic naivety on all sides? Or the law is in conflict with itself? No, two questions. Is the law in conflict with itself, or this is something we can't explain?
No, I don't think there is conflict of laws. First, I think there is need for a review of those laws. Clause 713 deals with account and checks that provided that agencies or government will have only 3 levels of account in commercial banks, which is the revenue account, the salary account, and the overhead account. Today is no longer possible because under the TSA, agencies or government cannot open a commercial bank account. This is the new era. So I think and then the clause 1402 sub III is dealing with special programs and projects. It is not, now when there is special programs and projects or operations, operational costs, then you can process funds to the officer responsible, who the law have now made the new accounting officer for the disbursement and retirement of those funds. And the argument is simple. if somebody is acting in an official capacity, it ceases to be private. This should be very clear. Then the issue of, yes, I agree, there seem to be some kind of bureaucratic lapses within the system because, one, the ministry is very much aware that they are self-accounting, officers. So I think that maybe what has happened that in the past, these programs were just programs of government under the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry. In May 2023, the former president now signed the National Social Investment Program Act, making that particular program now an agency of government under the ministry. So transitioning from being a program to now have institutional framework as a self-accounting agency may have caused whatever issues, they had. And the Accountant General said, you, the agency or ministry, you are a self-accounting unit, so you can post your transactions yourself. But you cannot continue to tag somebody who is an officer private. This is the concern, and this is what we need to reconcile. If you are functioning in an official capacity, you are no longer private. There is a difference between Bola Ahmed Tinubu and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. One is accountable to his family. The other is accountable to the public. Does
that also mean that their accounts, their belongings are also now government or not private or official in any case? Because I imagine a lot of people will now be stretching it. To what extent is that particular, example or instance that you give? But I'd like you to respond to the question he raised or the point he made. And also, is it enough? Because he has said that she's been investigated now 2 weeks. Some say there should have been some sort of outcome to that investigation already by the EFCC. Let us know what is going on. Isn't it taking too long? So I wonder, in addition to your response to him, do you see her coming back to FEC?
No, I don't expect her to come back, and I'm not being sentimental about it. Let me respond to the point he has made, that the official in question acted in a personal capacity. The issue is not whether this was a public official. The issue is, was this a personal account? What the law speaks to is the nature of the account. And I ask a question that my friend has not answered. Can President Tinubu, can the Accountant General demand for the account statement of this official from the bank? The answer is no.
Let's get into answer now.
Is Minister Betta Edu the accounting officer of the ministry, or is it the permanent secretary?
Okay, Mr. Okay, can you quickly answer that quickly, just so you can...
So that I can continue.
Okay, let me say this. Yes, if you are an officer of government and you're acting in official capacity, your account statement is subject to scrutiny. It can be demanded because in the first instance, you have to retire the money. There is a procedure for retirement provided.
Okay.
That is number one. So if you, that account, so far you receive it in official capacity to perform a government function, account statement can be demanded at any time and provided. Because in the first instance, as the accounting officer for the program, you have responsibility to make retirement using specific template on how those money has been disbursed. So that is very possible and it can happen.
I don't agree with that. You have the principle of confidentiality in banking. This account is personal to her. This account was opened in the name of this official, using the BVN of this official. So you cannot say that the government can simply just tell her, go and bring your statement of account. It is personal, it is private. But the question is, did she even have the power to make this approval? Or is it the permanent secretary? Let's even assume that this payment is permissible as he has suggested.
No, I can answer the question.
Is it the permanent secretary or the minister that should have exercised that function?
Let me tell you this, please.
Is it the permanent secretary or the minister?
Hold on, Mr. Kerry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr.
Go ahead, your response is a conversation.
Agencies of government, even in the legal firm of my colleague, when a letter is written to the chief executive. The chief executive, depending on the bureaucratic arrangement within the system, will look at it and send it to the appropriate officer that will deal with it. So you cannot be writing from outside a ministry or even a firm, and then the chief executive will not be the one to author the letter. Now, under that provision too, there is even sub-II, where the Minister of Finance has to approve a threshold for personal, non-personal advances. Is there?
No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
Those laws
again,
Mr. Okeke, let him respond. Mr. Okeke,
let him respond.
Mr.
Okeke, hold on.
The secretary is the...
Let him respond. Let him respond.
Again, the facts should be respected. Namely, that it was suspended Minister Bayo who gave it approval and not the permanent secretary. That has not been challenged. And under the financial regulations of this country, it is the permanent secretary that is accounting officer of a ministry. Secondly, this agency, Social Intervention Agency, is a creation of law. It has a status of its own. So at what point did the minister, under what section of the act creating this agency, is the minister even authorized to do this? And I've asked the question that beyond the surface, I'm putting a challenge today, and I hope EFCC will answer that question. Because it is not enough to say, let us recall her. Who are the beneficiaries? And I'm biased a bit because my home state, Akwa Ibom, is mentioned. That 219 million was supposed to go to some indigent people in Akwa Ibom, some to Cross River, Lagos, where we are now, and Ogun State. Who were going to be the final beneficiaries of this money? If at the end of the investigation, EFCC cannot answer that question, with the identities of those persons, their accounts, their residents, there will be no basis to recall her. Because this has been going on. We have been hearing donations in the market. We have been hearing N-Power over the years. We have now seen that the government is saying they want to even spend 3 billion to audit the social register, which is even scandalous to begin with. What are you spending 3 billion to audit? I mean, it is embarrassing. The sort of things we hear in this country. So I am saying that these social intervention schemes or programs should be scrapped. It has not altered the poverty ratio in the country. It has not had any effect on inflation. It has not reduced the purchasing power of the Nigerian people. Let us scrap it completely. I don't see the need for it.
Or improve the purchasing power, you meant?
Yes, it has not improved the purchasing power of the people.
Right.
On the contrary, what we have seen over the years is a climate of secrecy. Like the one is mentioned about the vice president going to the market to throw money. Nobody can tell us who the beneficiaries of this money.
That's
so President Tinubu, yes,
just to read.
President Tinubu cannot say he wants to continue with these programs without telling Nigerians the people that have benefited over the years.
Well, he has suspended it, but there are statements, guys, from X and WhatsApp. Orebi Emmanuel saying, I disagree with the guest from Abuja studio. Better Edu, as someone that has served as commissioner in her state before and gone through retreats and induction on how to carry out her duties as minister, should know better. That's what Orebi Emmanuel says.
And this one is coming from... so you will respond. However it concerns any of you, you kindly respond. This person from on WhatsApp said we should forget about the trending video and allow the government continue with their investigation. Edu must be investigated. Bukola, you have the next one.
This one is, should I help out?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it says, good morning. Yes, it is possible to credit project manager's account, but there are thresholds. And the minister told us that the funds shall be credited directly to the beneficiary's account with commercial banks through the CBN after the accounts have been duly verified. You didn't tell us your name, but that's also from WhatsApp. And just to state that this conversation is also centered around ensuring that we put the right checks and balances in place so that we don't keep going over this time and again. I mean, this is 2024, for crying out loud. You'll expect that some of these things should not even be talked about as much. We should focus on more developmental issues. So perhaps we can also wind down final words on how to ensure that this does not happen again, and that's from Mr. Okirike and you as well, Mr. Effiong, just to ensure that we have a fail-safe proof or fail-safe system in place such that public monies are well accounted for and properly dispersed.
Yeah, just to add to what my colleague Kayode has said, for both of you as well, if you can remember his first question, just to add to that, what happens to the issue of crediting these accounts directly? Maybe just an addition so that we don't lose trail of our conversation. Mr. Okirike, first to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that this is probably the only point where I have to agree with my colleague there. If you claim you have credited people money, where is the evidence? I agree completely. This is an important program, and we're saying it's to the vulnerable people. So there should be proper accountability and transparency. You cannot credit people in the realms or in the spirit. There have to be individuals who has received those money, and Nigerians deserve to know them. So that is taken. Nobody can argue that, because we can't run a program or run a country with 130 million multidimensionally poor people, and we are not able to ensure that the intervention programs get directly to the people, who need them. So I completely agree that accountability is key. And I think that the president perhaps has taken the most important decision, and that decision to commission a panel to look critically at the accounting system and financial protocols for most of this intervention. And this should be extended to other MDAs and ministries of agencies of government, because it is not just about humanitarian affairs. Every particular agency of government in Nigeria today have a threshold of funds they process into public officers' account, for operational costs or overhead. And they use this money through their own account, whether for fueling of their vehicles or getting flight tickets for their travels and what have you, and then they retire it. That is the protocol. So if we feel there is potential for fraud within this accounting system that is prevalent, then we can make a review and ensure that this program happen properly. So the social intervention program defines the character of a renewed hope administration. So I support that the program should go on, but in a re-engineered and reworked manner, so that
point made. Just so we can anchor. There's a message for you, by the way, Mr. F. Young, and this is from Timmy Diafari on WhatsApp, saying the young minister is facing a backlash from exposing the wanton corruption in SIPA, and people like you, he alleges, are helping the people who want better edu out by distracting everyone with 582 million naira, whereas 44 billion naira is in the air, and the message goes on. But let's wind down with that recommendation.
Those officials are also being investigated. In all this, let us not forget there was also a memo for people to mysteriously and spiritually fly to a certain airport in Kogi State, an airport that is only known to the minister, that Nigerians do not know where it actually, even the governor of Kogi State doesn't know where it is situated. But I think at the appropriate time, she will tell us where that airport is. Regarding the video about those who were singing Bola on your mandate, I think the president should be scandalized. What is the mandate they are talking about? Is it a mandate of accountability? Is it a mandate of corruption? Is it a mandate of infractions? What is the mandate they are talking about? So let us stop this thing we do in the country, that once the officials are accused of infractions, people begin to go carry placards. If you go and interview those women, you will be surprised. They won't even know why they were gathered. They won't even know what the issues are about. So let us stop this culture of elevating serious, of trivializing serious conversations. The minister has been rightly suspended. The FCC is carrying out investigation. If at the end of the day, it is found truly that there is no airport in Kogi State, and a memo was issued that officials or aides of the minister should be paid, then there has to be consequences for it.
Well, anyway, there's a lot to talk about, but we also understand that, when it comes to ministries, there are approval limits. Anything beyond 20 million, I think, has to go to the minister and all of that. But it's a never-ending conversation. That's why there's an investigation.
Yes.
When the authorities have swooped in to ensure that everybody who is involved is asked the questions, and if anybody is found culpable, they are brought to book. And everyone is looking forward to that outcome at the end of the day. I must thank you, Mr. Inibe Fiong, human rights and public interest lawyer, legal practitioner here in Lagos. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chibuzo Okereke, legal, legislative and policy analyst, as well as the president, Project Hope Alive Africa, who joined us from Abuja studio. Mr. Okereke, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, there's a lot more coming on the program, and of course, we'll continue to keep our eyes and ears on this investigation. As soon as it's out, we'll be the first to let you know. But we'll now switch gears to some other thing when we come back after this break. What does it take to work with the president for 8 years, capturing every moment of his mid-air, on land, on the sea? The man who photographed President Muhammadu Buhari for 8 years will join us on the program to tell us exactly what that entails and what he's up to after leaving office. Join us again.
Where is Bayo?
I said we are the only Nigerian order left, left, right, and center.
Now it's rare to see anyone command the commander-in-chief. That's what our guest has been doing, or he did for 8 years, telling the president, shift this way, Mr. President, just like this, you're not standing right, you need to move left, you need to move. That was his job. Only one guy could do that to the president. His name? Well, the president at some point asked, where's Bayo? Well, Bayo is here. Bayo Omoboriowo is joining us in our Lagos studio. Presidential photographer and a creative himself. Bayo, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me this morning.
How did it feel to be commanding the president?
Well, it feels interesting. It feels a rare privilege, really, to even stand in front of the president, to do what I love to do, and to be given the platform and the privilege to express myself the way I want, and with a great desire to inspire a generation. And for me, the first goal of being in the villa was, how can I represent the young people of Nigeria? And how can I do what I do, but with excellence, because it has very little margin for error. And that was what it was about.
Yeah, before I go deeper into the conversation, I'm wondering, not everybody knows how to pose. Even Bukola, sometimes we have to struggle to just get and all of that.
Why did Bukola have to come into the conversation? This is about
Was it difficult to make the president pose for shots, or it was just a natural? How would you rate him on a 10 over 10?
I'll rate him...
Former president, I must say.
I'll rate him...
Don't be too generous. Be sincere. It's no longer enough.
Okay, so the reality is... President Buhari wasn't one for photographs.
Really?
He wasn't one for photographs. He cared less about the image. But one thing that is unique about photography is the subject. Is the person framed enough to be amazing in being photographed? So he has the posture that makes it, even if he's lost in moments, I can create amazing images from him, amazing frames. So he is the kind of person that, as much as he doesn't care, and I say it, for 8 years, President Buhari never asked me, can I see the images you created?
In 8 years?
For 8 years. Wow. He never asked, can I come and show me the images? He cared less about what it looks like.
Interesting.
And that was it for me. So it made it a bit more challenging because I had to be very careful with what I was going to release to the public. I needed to think well before I released anything that could become a problem. So, but he cared less about it. And what I enjoyed about it was, it then gave me liberty to express myself the way I felt. And it helped me be very creative and being very fluid in the images I created.
I'm sure you get this a lot, having worked with the former president for 8 years. How would you describe former President Muhammadu Buhari, the man?
Well, I think for me, is from my own perspective as a creative, he was someone that just trusted you and just believed you know what you were doing. And I think that was what happened throughout his government. Once he believes in you, once he chooses you, he cares less about what any other person has to say. If he has chosen you and he has given you a role, he believes you have the capacity to deliver on that role.
and he allows you to do it. There were several instances where people be like, no, Bayo, you can't be here. And he's like, hey, leave there. He knows what he's doing. Let him do his work. Wow. Or I get into a room and I need to photograph him, and I know the situation and the environment is not decent enough, and I need to move things around. And someone's like, no, we don't have time. He's like, he speaks, like, leave there. Let him do his work. He was hired to occupy this role, not you. So if you're security, do security work. If you're a photographer, do your photography. If you're a minister, do the work I've given you. And that for me was one thing that was very unique about him. He gives you the role, he allows you to express yourself.
Phenomenal. I mean, we'll still ask, what was the former president telling
what was it whispering
in this particular image? Do you remember? Is it a top secret?
No, it's not a secret. So one of the key things about being the president's photographer is access. And we know a lot and we see a lot. And we always tell politicians, or if you believe you're hiring a photographer, allow him to do his work. But you must trust that photographer. In this event, it was somewhere in Europe, and the president was in a meeting. And guess what happened in that instance? And I'll say it, I've never said what happened there. The president was in that meeting, and it was like a big hall, and all the heads of state were sitting down round the hall. And the president actually forgot his Bayo, his pen. Yeah. And then he brought his writing material, and then there was no pen. And unlike him, he's always putting it in his pocket. So I was the only person in Nigeria that was in that room. So he looked around and like, do you have Bayo with you? So what he was asking me for was a pen, because in those international events, the ADC or wherever his aides are might have been stopped like kilometers away. Yeah. And the photographer is the only one that has access into those events. Sometimes every aid, security has been stopped like maybe 10 kilometers away. And the only person that can follow the president is his photographer. So right inside my jacket was a pen that I gave the president.
You saved the nation.
And Bayo, it shows that, sorry, Kari, it shows, it speaks to your own ability to document your time with the president as well, because we can see here that somebody documented this for you.
Yes.
And you have documented many other times that you had with the president. Yeah. You can speak to that.
So there was another official photographer to another president that was in that room, because we're only official photographers that were allowed in that room. And sometimes you have just about 30 seconds to create the moment and leave. And then after we finished, he was like, oh, I got a picture of you talking to your man. So we call our presidents your guy. So we say, I got a picture of you talking to your guy. And we're like, oh, mail it to me. But I never knew how powerful, I didn't even know anybody captured that moment. But when he sent it to me, I felt it was an interesting picture that speaks to how powerful a creative could be in the room.
Absolutely, and this is a moment you saved the nation. Thank you for your service. Well, I need to ask you this, really, and it's a very important question. I mean, you are the image maker, the real image maker. They call PR people image makers, but you actually make that image and push it out there. And I'm just curious, how were you able to capture the president, particularly during that period when he was ill, he was recovering afterwards, such that he didn't betray the fact that, he was going through health challenges. You still present, if after a while people were calling him model, and I think you're responsible for people calling him a model, how were you able to capture those moments and present the president in that light that still looked like the major general that he was?
I think for me, I can only say God helped me, to be honest, because it was a very, very challenging period, where the agenda for me being in the villa in the first place was I wanted to preserve history for my unborn children. That was what took me to the villa. I wanted to be the guy that in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, if they would say what happened during this period in Nigeria, they can look at my archives and find those images there. And that was what pushed me. So those periods were periods where I needed to also portray a man in fairness. Because he was ill, shouldn't take away the fact that he's still human, and I needed to have that mindset. And there's very little margin for error in this work. So the way I presented him has to be fair yet accurate, has to be creative yet professional, and that was the balance in that period. And it was quite emotional for me as well at that period, where someone with so much agility, all of a sudden, I have to be sure he's dressing right, because then he had lost so much weight, that period. I had to be sure, it was a whole lot, that period, and it was quite emotional. And I think we were able to still document that process, to document that moment, and we still preserved it.
All right. Let's just backtrack a bit. Not every photographer, no matter how creative you are, will be fortunate to become a presidential photographer. Part of why we brought you here is also to underscore your journey. How did you get this job to become the president's official photographer? Okay, you need to adjust your cap.
Yeah.
It's an important question.
Yeah, from Mushin to the world. I think my journey has been one of grace. Not that it's a privilege. It's a privilege, not that it's my right. Yeah. And I owe that honor and respect to the president for giving me such a privilege. He didn't know me from. I always tell people, my father did not even know our local government chairman. Neither did I know the councillor in my area. Neither did I even know the state government. All I knew was just my camera and God. And I think that played a huge role. And the journey started from me studying pure and applied chemistry in University of Lagos and finishing with 4.26 CGP. And the joy was that I was going to go and work in oil and gas company.
You studied chemistry?
I studied pure and applied chemistry.
Nothing to do with photography.
Pure and applied chemistry.
Maybe that's why you had good chemistry with the former
Pure and applied chemistry.
No pun intended.
So it was quite interesting because immediately I finished university, I then went for NYSC. And my plan was I was going to work in oil and gas company. I had called my contact at Chevron then. I said, I'm going to... I'm coming for NYC, and then I made sure I was posted to Port Harcourt.
The oil.
Then I got into Port Harcourt, and they said everybody that comes to Port Harcourt or River State teaches. Teach. And I'm like, well, at that point, what do I have? I had always loved to take pictures in University of Lagos, any event.
Was your father?
My father is a photographer. So I loved it, but I didn't understand what I was doing. I just felt passionate about it. I could photograph anything. So when I went for NYSC, I was, available. I had free time, and then I started traveling. We were doing rural rugged. We would go from village to village, and I was documenting. And I remember wearing an NYSC uniform and going into a photo laboratory because I have to do wait and get in NYSC camp. So I'll do wait and get
that
quickly.
Year,
yes, I'll print and pass my I'll take the picture, pass my memory card to one of the photographers and tell him to go and print, and then I'll start selling to coppers. And then everybody wanted my own pictures, to the point that the photographers in NYSC camp called meeting on my head. That this boy is spoiling our market. And then, but from there, I felt I was so, and they always ask, what is that one thing you would do that even if you're not paid for, you would always want to do? And that was photography for me. And that was how I moved back to Lagos, and I started taking pictures. I was going everywhere, took pictures for DFID. And then someone told me one day, we're told to call you from the UK to come and start shooting for us. I said, UK, me? We're living in Igondo, a guy that had hawked pure water in Lagos.
You hawked pure water?
I hawked pure water in Mushi. I hawked pure water in Mushi. So from hawking pure water to be called from UK that they should interview several other top photographers, but it is Bayo they should go and look for. That it is Bayo they must hire. I said, me.
How did that come to you?
By mail. So at that point, that period, we were sacrificing our time. And it's a lesson for the young people out there. We were doing documentary for Bella Niger. That was one of the biggest blogs back then. So we'll go around Lagos, take pictures, and then we'll upload it on Bella Niger. Myself, Jide Odukoya, and Benga Omodu. Benga Omodu writes. Two of us, we're just passionate. I left NYC, came back to University of Lagos to squat as a graduate to learn how to use Photoshop. And I'll come to that story of why we built Madhouse. This is why we built Madhouse. I would go to Unilag, go under the gate to squat after graduating and finishing NYC to go and squat.
In the first class?
I finished 4.26. We're almost first class.
As alumni.
Yeah.
Alumni squatting.
Yeah, squatting just to learn how to use Photoshop. And that was where our dexterity started from. That was where the quality of work you're seeing today started from. That was where the energy started from. And from there, we were going around, and Bella Niger started showing what we were doing. And immediately Bella Niger started showing what we were doing, the world started noticing. So being celebrated on the global stage started since 2012, when I won the Future Award for the Creative Artist of the Year. And then from there, I won several awards back to back. And then in 2014, I won Sundance Institute Film Festival Award in the US, my first time in the US. And all of this things started building, but it started from the guy that was squatting in Lagos, and then taking pictures all around everything. We took everything, burial, naming ceremony, freedom, whatever. We're just photographing. But that was what started building the skill of being a good photographer, building the eye. We'll go for portfolio review, they will critique you, you'll cry. And these are the things that are missing.
So how did you get that presidential call? That's where we're getting to.
Yes, but after 2014 December, I saw an advert on TV, APC National Convention. But before then, I went to Ekiti to photograph Fayemi, Governor Fayemi then, when he was doing the election. He lost. I felt so sad. I came back. I went to Osun to photograph Governor Aregbesola because felt. Why? I got to a point in my life where I knew that I was born to be a documentary photographer. I was born to tell stories. So it was clear. So I started looking for opportunities to do that. Then 2014 APC convention, I went there and I was photographing. They stole my phone. And it was the point where President Buhari, General Buhari then was voting. They stole my iPhone. Most photographers left that arena that day. I slept on the floor at the Teslim Balogun Stadium. And I said, God, they stole my phone here. You must reward me. I don't know anybody. I came out of passion. They said, be passionate, be passionate. A passionate creative has come to Teslim Balogun to photograph. Even without tag, without accreditation, I found my way in. I said, God, you will reward me. I didn't know God actually heard me. And January, they called me and said, General Buhari needed a photographer. And it is Bayo, you are the one that fits it. I said, me. From nowhere. I don't know anybody that knows him. I don't know anybody. I've never been to... The only time I ever entered Villa was when I was an awardee that we're doing something with. That was the only time I go to Abuja, I come back, I don't know anybody. And then I went to Rivers and campaign started, introduced me, you'll be his photographer. And that's how the whole journey started. I didn't know anybody, not a single person. My father doesn't, my family, we don't know anybody.
Just to put it out there.
But one thing that I would never forget was the platform Debola Williams, Red Media, created then.
Oh yeah, you mentioned.
And I'll never forget to say thank you to them because they got the job to be his to do his branding then, and then that was how they got to bring me in, and then I started photographing him, and that was where.
Let's talk about the work that you're doing now, because you've always tied it to your story. You came from Mushin, hawked pure water, and you'd like for a lot of people, creatives, to also pass through all of that and become great. I was watching a video where you said, we don't want poor creatives. I think that was what you said. So speak to us about what you're building now. You're no more working with the president, but apparently you're building something big. You've had the German chancellor, people in government. Talk to us about what you're building now.
So right now, I'm on the journey of radically transforming the creative landscape of Africa. Radically. And this has been so because I am particularly thrilled by my own journey. It was a journey of a lot of pains back and forth. And towards the end of my work with the president, I studied arts and cultural management in King's College London. And I knew it was going to change my own story because I've always, since 2012, I've been passionate about how to bring the creative community together since 2012. And one of it was, how do we create an economy that works for the creatives? How do we create spaces that serves the purpose of the creatives? So in Lagos right now, University of Lagos, in collaboration with University of Lagos, we've created the first creative incubator, purpose-built creative incubator in Nigeria. Built to excellence, built to taste, and the German chancellor, visited few months ago. We had the Honorable Minister of Arts and Culture visiting few weeks ago. We've had European Union, ECOWAS, and all of them coming. And what is the agenda for this? How do we create a place where the child of nobody becomes somebody without knowing anybody? A place where you can come in without anything and you can become something from Madhouse. And we call it Madhouse because we're actually looking for, yes.
Go ahead, say it.
Mad creatives. We're looking for people who are intentional about what they want to become. We are looking for creatives where beyond them just being passionate. And we see all of these things on social media. Oh, this young boy in Katsina, in Kano, has created this thing. And then after we celebrate them on social media, that is the end. How do we aggregate all of these talents together and then begin to incubate them? So we call it Incubator for Creatives. Incubator for creatives, for people that are interested in innovation within the creative space and even technology. How do we bring them together to exchange ideas, to collaborate, and then begin to build industries that solve some of Africa's biggest problems, which is one, unemployment. Yeah. If a creative is able to do more is going to be able to create jobs because he needs more people to help him create more. So we want to solve the problem of unemployment by making sure that we radicalize the creative landscape. Let us do more. China takes our fabric in our ashoke and our adire from us, they take it to China and produce it in mass. Why are we producing just one in Nigeria? Why can't we begin to think economics? So this place would help young people begin to think economics, begin to think enterprise. First is they would develop their skill to do more. Second is, and they develop those skills by interacting with the right people. For instance, now I got a call that Pete Souza, the former Obama photographer, wants to come yesterday, that wants to come to the Madhouse. This is someone that we've been looking for to visit Nigeria for years. But now, because there's a space called the Madhouse, there's a meeting point. And the idea for me was, how do we create a space that creativity can be valued, can be treasured? And when German Chancellor came here, he said, this is modern Nigeria architecture. And this is the kind of places they are looking for. And that was the agenda. How do we create spaces that the international world wants to come to support us to develop more what we're already doing within that creative space? And the future is going to change the game for these people. And that way, they can get investors to invest in their business. They can, the same thing that has happened in the tech space now. Everybody's talking about the tech space, but it started from them creating incubators that could help these tech people come together. The same thing now we're doing for the creative space. How do we bring them together? How do we help them get funding for their crafts? How do we begin to tell the Nigerian story, the African story, through the creative practice they are doing, and that's it. And
the outlook of the Madhouse itself suggests something that is quite outlandish. You know, you can see a container somewhere, you know.
The porter cabin.
In the constructs, the entire construct of the Madhouse. You can speak to that. And while you're doing that, you know, you talked about the minister's visit, you know, to the Madhouse recently, and I had, of course, listened to the conversation you had with her, and she said that, you know, your vision pretty much envisions what she has for the creative industry. What ideas, perhaps, has she shared that gets you excited about the prospects for the creative industry under this administration?
I think the creative industry in Nigeria now is at a very pivotal moment, because we're now talking about multi-billion-dollar economy. We are no longer playing like we were before. And that's why we're positioning, someone like me and my team are positioning ourselves to be part of that transformation. When we created this space, speaking to the architecture, the Nigerian story should never leave the context. And one of the things is, where does our creativity begin to position itself on the global in the global market? So it's no longer creating art for us sake, but art for the world. If the world is not buying our art, if the world is not buying our creativity, it's just like the way Flutterwave is striving. The world is buying it. But for over the years, we've been creating work for ourselves alone. But it's time for us to create both for ourselves and for the world. So the container is for the world. The mud and clay you are seeing there is for us. And that's why you can see in the building, there's a lot of Nigerian story, Nigerian-ness to the building. And beyond this, in Abuja right now, on 30 hectares of land, we are building the biggest creative village in Africa. 30 hectares of land. Whoa. We are building the biggest creative village in Africa. This is the space where we are changing the game completely. And this is the future of Africa. And this is one of the things that interested the minister. But beyond the minister, it's interesting in the world. This is what the world should be paying attention to now from Africa. How do we begin to export our creative products?
Okay, let's begin to zoom in on a few things. Now, when you call it the Madhouse, incubator for creatives, what categories of creatives do you look out for? I know photography is top up there. Which other set of creative in terms of the entire value chain? Is it just entire creative? So maybe give us specifics before I ask my next question. Okay, so we are speaking to creative innovation and enterprise. Once you are interested in the business of creativity, whether you're a visual artist, whether you're into creative technology, sculpting, visual art, mixed media, multimedia presentation, photography, of course, filmmaking, and all within this, whatever the intersection of creativity, enterprise, and innovation is where we meet. So you are creative, but you want to turn that creativity into a product. We are there. Now you want to turn that product into industry. We are there. Which is why in Abuja, we are in an industrial layout where creativity is incubated into a product. You have a tangible product, whether it's an art piece
or like the first one we're starting now, which is starting at the end of the month, is called the Lens-Based Incubation Program. And we discovered at the selection, we just ended the screening and selection ended yesterday. We found a young creative. I'd never seen it. I'd been longing to find it, but I found it just this weekend. Who is producing camera photography equipment using locally sourced material.
No way.
In my 15 years of being a photographer, we have to go to China.
His name?
I'll keep his name.
Do you want to let it out yet? Okay.
So it's an entire value chain.
An entire value chain. Why can't we
village?
export photography equipment? Why can't we export canvas?
Sorry,
why
when
must
you
we
say
keep
photography
buying?
equipment? Do you mean the tripods? Or
Is manufacturing even the ditch for the light? These are things we import. And we are talking
like
about
softbox, all those things. No way. How?
Lens
in Nigeria. So we started with lens-based incubation program. So that one we've already discovered talents. There are people using locally sourced material.
Wow.
And we are talking about dollar rising to 1,300 and something. This is how dollar will go down. Because if you know how much creatives spend by buying things abroad, we want to buy canvas to paint. We bring it abroad from the country. Even frame. Why can't we go to Ondo and buy do wood and begin to create our own frame? Why must we import frame? If we want to print, we'll go to Germany, Italy, Dubai to print. Why can't we do this? So the Madhouse is going to help these creatives begin to think enterprise. How do we use locally sourced materials? How do you use local interventions and innovations to begin to solve our own problems? So if the creatives can reduce their spending power abroad, Nigeria started getting better. So that's why we're staying between creativity, product, innovation, and industrialization. Let's begin to ship cartons of creative products to those countries.
One of the things I wanted to ask is just like in government, sometimes the quarrel some people have is the fact that when people want to set up things in government, sometimes they set up things that cannot generate revenue. It just makes the optics look good.
Yeah.
Now, I'm relating that to issue of creative. There's a lot of passion in trying to say, create, and connecting to the market. Now, there are some part of the creative that the consumption is quite high. Movie consumption in Nigeria is quite high. Music consumption is quite high. We're doing pretty well. I can't remember any other. Maybe a bit of comedy is quite high. So these other ones that are not as high earning as the ones I've mentioned, what is Madhouse doing and your team as well as the entire space doing to make sure that, look, besides or beyond the guys creating this content and this product, they are also being appreciated so they can get in exchange the kind of value. Are you looking at the Nigerian market or the international market or a hybrid of both?
So what we're doing at the Madhouse is we prepare you both in your creative power, your mind, and go-to markets. We link you to the market. But first, we'll get you investors to invest in that idea. Because if they don't have the resources to scale, we are talking about scale. Scaling is the only way they can create jobs. So a guy who has been creating 5 art pieces in a month can now employ more hands to influence them, and then he's no longer doing art for art's sake. He's now also doing art for economic sake. That way, we get them investors to help them scale. So the guy that was working alone as a solo creative, all of a sudden can employ 50 persons. That way, he creates 500 works. He boxes it, and we help them connect to the market, which is why we're working with the government to see how we can help them connect to the market. Ease of them boxing those art pieces and shipping it abroad for exhibitions, for shows. The same thing with fabric, the same thing with music. It is going outside Nigeria is why it is thriving. We can no longer be creating work for us to consume alone. We need to create works for the global market. And we've done it with film, yes. We've done it with music. But there are several other parts of the creative industry that we've left to the corner. And it's easy for everybody. The government comes and jumps on the available one that people are making noise about. We don't want to jump into what people are making noise about. We want to do the real work of going down into where the problems are, finding them. Sir, can I tell you that the craft industry in Nigeria is nowhere to be found on the global market? So you see them come, they just go to one corner in Edu there, meet art, we keep calling it Art and Craft Village. They give them peanuts, pack the work, and then they ship it abroad. Why can't we have a craft institution where you can come in and they don't just come to buy, we ship these things in. So one of the things Madhouse is doing is how do we revisit the craft business in Nigeria?
All right. Bayo, there's a lot to talk about, but I want to go on this quick break. Yes,
I'm really with questions.
Yes, there's a lot to talk about in terms of challenges, government, and even the where he is. I'm going to ask that question. That madhouse is located at the University of Lagos. Yeah. So maybe we'll have the conversation about including that in the curriculum of the university. Maybe, I don't know. But that will be when we come back after this break. Bayo is still with us. Join us again. Welcome back. It's still Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. We've been talking to Bayo Omoboriowo, official presidential photographer. He photographed President Muhammadu Buhari for 8 years, and he's been giving us perspective on that journey as well as what he's been up to. Bayo, thanks again for staying with us. I know that before we went on that break, Kayode had a question, so I won't ask. So let Kayode ask his question before I continue.
Just to take this message, by the way, a lot of people are excited to see you. They've seen your images, but now they're seeing Bayo. And Bison Peter on WhatsApp says, this Bayo guy is just awesome. He sounds very intelligent, and his creativity is just beyond a photographer. I hope whoever replaced him will be good enough. Meanwhile, he studied chemistry. Just wow. Yeah, that's the reaction we had too. But there's a lot of people interested in this, particularly the work you're doing for creatives. I think the goal of the minister is to have the industry worth $100 billion by 2030, contribute, I think, 10% to the GDP. And I think that's, well, the global range is maybe about between maybe 2 to 8%. She's trying to do beyond that. The recent GDP figures didn't quite do justice to that. But I know you said that $10,000 is on the table for this particular cohort. Am I correct?
Yes.
And they've been selected.
Yes.
When will the announcement be made?
Tonight.
Tonight.
Yes.
Oh, I see why you didn't want to let the cat out of the bag.
Tonight.
But don't worry, you can tell us. Won't tell anybody.
Tonight.
We promise not to tell
anybody.
No, I went tonight. So if you've applied, you're going to get to hear if you were successful. But just to backtrack a little bit, because this question has been on my mind and I want to ask you.
Let it out, let it out.
You know, all the times that you hold the camera before the former president, you're about to take the image. By the way, we'll show some of the daring things you've done while you were working with the former president. But did you ever look at the president, maybe zoom in? This was during campaigns, but beyond that, did you ever zoom in at some point and think?
We need to pause. You need to pause.
What was going through your mind here?
What was this?
This was in Katsina as the president arrived. So for me, I always push the limits, you know, and I think for me it worked because I always want to see the possibility of not missing any moments. And these are moments that you can't.
This is a Tom Cruise moment, right?
No, and this is not me trying to post. I needed the images that could come through, you know, having to sit on this and, you know, do all of this.
What?
And for me, it's an underlining energy. I can't stop. I can't stop telling the story. I can't allow the story pass me by without documenting it. And you can talk about it now because I did it. And I can remember this video also. These were moments that, you know, really, really mattered. This was the president meeting with President, you know, Obama back then. And President Obama was one person I adored so much.
So you were clicking.
Even when we travel abroad and they say no photographers are allowed, it got to the point that other photographers around the world were like, Nigerian photographers, he will get there. Because I would find my way.
That's common boy.
They don't say Nigeria. In fact, if they don't see me, there was a time that, you know, I was, I think I had COVID then. And I couldn't make it to an international trip. And they were calling, where are you? We've not seen you. We've not seen you. We've not seen you. Where you are? Where you are? Because it was always about...
I need to ask this question. Pardon me, guys.
Yeah.
You're 36.
Yes.
Am I correct? 36, doing amazing things. But I need to ask you, has there ever been a time you had to zoom into the president and say, is this really Jibrin of Sudan?
You never go into that conversation.
I have to.
No. See, and I will say it, and I owe nobody any apology. President Buhari, to me, is a man of grace. And I think that period, that was what happened. And I still had that conversation with one elderly woman over the Christmas break. And she called me to the room. Bayo, come. Carried me into her kitchen. Is he really Buhari? Is he really Buhari? And I was trying to just explain to her, like, for instance, I'm a photographer. If you change that, you know now, you should be able to...
Because we are drawing circles.
Speaking of which, Bayo, there was no remarked difference from you between that last time that the former president, traveled out for treatment and then he came back and then he had, you know, fully recovered, and that was when the controversy began.
Yeah.
There was no marked difference for you.
No, that's why I said is a person of grace. Because as it progressed, it was getting better. It was getting fresher. It was getting, and I can just imagine, the recovery process, the medical process. But I don't want to go into that conversation because for me, it was more about telling the story of a man that, when he went and when he came back, it was still the same to me. He lost weight and he gained weight. That was all.
So you never wondered, is this gibberish?
No, I did not smell whether he's one or not. He was the same person. Our conversations were still the same. He didn't see me. He asked after me, where is Bayo? So if he's not the same, why would you know what the photographer's name is? I don't know where those things came from.
I know that Kari asked you a question. Let's not. I don't know whether he landed on your question, but he will ask that question again and maybe we'll call that. But before we leave, you're going to tell us your most iconic picture of the president, if we have it here, maybe or maybe not. But Kari, we're asking him. I don't think you landed on your thoughts before we interrupted you for those. Because the images were too powerful for us to let it go.
No, absolutely, and I think he responded essentially to it. In fact, there's a game I was playing with these images. Find Buhari, because there's sometimes you see the image is so big and you wonder, where's Buhari? Like now, where's Buhari? Oh, there it is. Maybe there should be an app. Find Buhari. But speak to us now about some of the, because you didn't receive as much heat as other people that worked with former President Buhari. Bayo was the correct guy. He sends images. He's just a cool guy, unlike others.
He doesn't release press statements.
And people will bash you like the
spokesperson,
the Femi Adesina, even Tolu Ogulesi and other people. A lot of people after the former president left office are not happy with him till date. And I don't know if you get that sort of negative vibe. Would you say he deserves that kind of legacy he left? And a lot of people say, no, Buhari messed things up. He didn't do things right. Do you think he deserved that?
Well, I think for me, one of the key things that found me in the room in the first place was I was going there as a storyteller. And my agenda was pure. And I tell you today, 95 to 98%, leaving 2% for error due to parallax, was the reality of what happened. So I never went there as a spokesperson. I never went there to hear or discuss what happened in the room. I just wanted to capture what happened in the room and presented it to the world the way it was. And that's why, and I used 98%. There were very few times I had to tell him, sir, I do like this. The pictures you see is the reality of how it happened. If he laughed, he laughed. If he cried, he cried. If he was angry, he was angry. That was how it was. So, and that differential was what could have helped me stay away from controversy. Because, again, I never eulogized him. This is President Buhari in Council Chamber on 14th May 2022. Did it happen or not is your business. But I never went ahead to start. And again, for me, I'm a creative. And our business is to document and not to explain. That's one. Two is, and there has to be that discipline of your role. What is your role? And staying within that role. But secondly as well is, President Bayo is human. And for me, in my relationship with him is to tell the story of the human and what he did while in that office. And not necessarily did he perform or did he not perform.
Are you saying, Bayo, that what I'm hearing is, look, I did my job, I got a good package, so whether or not President Buhari performed is none of my business?
No, I care so much. I care so much about Nigeria. Yeah. I single-handedly traveled during COVID when people were sleeping in their room to tell the Nigerian story. I risked my life almost to death to tell the Nigerian story. So if it is about Nigeria, I'm very passionate about Nigeria. Occupy Nigeria, I was the chief photographer. Yes, so I've been that passionate about Nigeria. But there's also a point where you get to, and you contribute your quota. You deliver the best you can, and you pull out. And there were instances where we had to play my own role, and that was what I did. Played my own role until today. That's why you can call me here, because now you can see amazing images of President Buhari.
You still didn't answer the question.
And my role in working
but I guess I have to pardon you.
Was to document that, and I presented it to the world.
Okay, I like the fact that you just say you only to tell the story, not to explain the story. But maybe last question, because we don't want to drag you into politics. You're not a politician. But one of the first things you said when we started off was that he lets you be when he gives you a role. Do you think that was an albatross as well for him? Because some people have said him delegating and looking away was a problem. Others have said, look, he gave you responsibility, why didn't you deliver? So what's your perspective of that?
I feel the problem of Nigeria is not just the leaders of Nigeria. I feel Nigerians are also part of the problem. For me, whoever becomes a minister or is given an appointment is a Nigerian. He comes into an office to deliver, and I'm going to go there because I'm Nigerian. And I believe
just 1 minute.
And I believe so much that the future of this country is a collective. Now, it gives you a role to deliver. I, as a young person, went there and delivered as a photographer. And to today, not just in Nigeria, on a global scale, you can know that a young guy came into Nigeria and radicalized the creative space in that space. Can everybody do the same? That, for me, is my perspective, and that's how I'll leave it. If everybody is given his role and he trusted you, again, does that mean that you trust and you dump it? No. But if you're given a role, deliver on that role, and then let's take Nigeria forward.
How do I follow Madhouse? I just quickly.
Madhouse by Tikera.
If I want to be a part of it,
at Madhouse by Tikera, you can follow it on social media, and you can go to University of Lagos by the Lagoon Front, and you'll see Madhouse.
I think I know. Maybe we can see it from the Third Mainland Bridge.
Of course,
yes. And so we'll photograph it from Third Mainland Bridge and send it to you. A quick one before we let Bayo go. Mr. Bayo, you are an inspiration to younger generation. Please, the vision you are concerning creative industry is amazing. Please don't be distracted. Follow through on it. I believe it will take Nigeria to another level. God bless you. I don't have a name here, but those are kind words coming to you. Bayo Omoboriowo, official photographer of President President Muhammadu Buhari. Former President Muhammadu Buhari for 8 years. We must thank you. You're quite an amazing gentleman. I wish you the very best with the Madhouse. And maybe one of these days, maybe Morning Brief will stop by there and do a live.
That would be mad. That'll be
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so
and
much.
guys, of course, it's been an amazing. Bayo almost made me. I almost lost track of what I was saying. Well, it's been an amazing first day of the week. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
And somehow, maybe Bayo has photographed this edition. We'll be sharing anyway.
We're going to share it on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Bukola Koka.
Well, let's make this day a great day, all right? God bless Nigeria. Goodbye.
Goodbye.